Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be talking about changing educational paradigms, inquiry, and multidisciplinary approaches. Um, how can inquiry change our educational programs? Um, Inquiry can help to make um, education more student-centered and more student-driven. It can also lead our students to become more critical thinkers because they are working on things that they connect to. The connections that they make are so important to what they're learning in the classroom. And if they cannot connect to the outside world, um, then it's highly unlikely that they're going to remember much of what they're taught. How can a multidisciplinary approach change educational paradigms? Um, well, multidisciplinary approach gives students the opportunity to seek and find relationships among subjects. Like I said, it is so important that students are linking things in their minds um, that don't necessarily go together, I guess, for lack of a better term. If they are able to make connections across curriculum and connections from their everyday life to what's going on in the classroom, they are far more likely um, to remember these connections and be able to use them later. Um, Students have to make connections themselves. Anything that I, as their teacher, connect for them, they are way less likely to remember. So it's important that they're making these connections themselves, so that they are able and ready to use these connections um, later on in problem solving situations. Um, what would or could this look like with my students in my curriculum or or my school and district? Um, this could be just the implementation of more problem-based learning type types of projects into my curriculum. I currently do have some problem-based learning um, projects with my students that are completely student driven, um, but I am a new teacher and I'm working very hard to come up with other ways that students are able to make a connection to the outside world, because it's really true that when I connect things for them, they might remember, but when they make the connections, it's so much better. Um, I think it would be really great too if in our in our school, if we were able to connect um, and sort of merge projects. I know that currently with my juniors, um, we always talk about second term juniors, second half of the year juniors know a lot more and are and do a lot better in our class. And I know that the history teachers feel the same way. Because in U.S. history, they're exposed to some of the texts and some of the authors that we review, and also some of the concepts. We talk about American values, and what better way to explore American values than through U.S. history? So um, I was actually having a conversation with a U.S. history teacher not too long ago, and he said that, sorry about the bell, he said that he it's so great when they get to like the 1920s, because they're connecting, like, oh, this is Gatsby, like, oh, I remember this was like the big parties, or whatever it is. So I noticed that the same is true in my class, because when we start talking about um, the Crucible, or we start talking about Great Gatsby, they know what was happening at the time, and they don't need as much scaffolding. um, so I think that sort of cross-curricular work is something that's going to help move towards these concepts and help shift our paradigm. Thank you so much for listening. Have a lovely day.